Today we are talking about the history of WWE on Grapple Talk. I decided to do WWE today just because I've done ECW, I've done WCW. For the next one after this is going to be AEW. Depends on how I feel. I thought I'd switch up from doing the championships since I've done three of them so far. Four of them because I did the WWE and both the WWE World Heavyweight Championships together because the current WWE World Heavyweight Championship was a bit smaller history than the older one. But yeah, today we are doing WWE. I don't know how long it's going to be, but um, but yeah, we'll get into just like the main bits in a sec. So we'll start with the general history of WWE, and then we get into the separate bits of them, just like the overall history first. So the history of WWE dates back to the early 50s, and it was founded on January 7th, 53, as Capital Wrestling Corporation. The public branding of the company has undergone several name changes throughout the years, from CWC to Worldwide Wrestling Federation in 63, and then World Wrestling Federation WWF in 79 to World Wrestling Entertainment in 2002. And since 2011, it has branded itself as solely as WWE. On September 12th, 23, Endeavour, the parent company of MMA promotion UFC and WWE, merged the two companies into a new parent company known as TKO Group Holdings. In my opinion, I don't really like TKO because they are generally just money grab, and I think from what it seems like, I'm not saying they are, but what it seems like on an outsider perspective, they just want the money, and that's why they're doing a lot of Saudi Arabia stuff. But yeah, WWE and UFC continue to operate as separate divisions of the company, with WWE focusing on professional wrestling and UFC obviously focusing on their MMA. In 23, WWE's legal name was changed to World Wrestling Entertainment LLC through the brand's name renamed WWE. Remained WWE. The branded name was WWE. Sorry about that. I'm just misreading. WWE is the largest pro wrestling promotion in the world. It has promoted some of the most successful wrestling storylines and featured some of the most iconic and significant matches in sports entertainment. I can give you a suggestion, like an example, like the Monstrous Screwjob. That was one of the biggest moments, and it's still talked about, mainly by Bret Hart because he does talk about it quite a lot. And obviously there's Stone Cold Steve Austin and Rock, who are quite big names, and then there's John Cena. So it also airs several high-profile programs such as Raw and SmackDown in 150 countries, hosts at least 12 pay-per-views in a year, including WrestleMania, and holds 320 live events. That is approximately that throughout the year around the world. And in 2014, WWE launched its first 24/7 streaming network, which would eventually showcase WWE Video Library. Right, to start with, as you can see, we're going to start with Capital Wrestling. Obviously, this might be slightly different, but it's a similar logo. But obviously, you see it says the NXT in the middle. But that is the general logo of what it looks like for the Capital Wrestling. But that's for the because you can see as I scroll down, you can see all the stuff that's similar to Capital Wrestling. But I think this is just for like the Capital Wrestling center. At WWE, but we're going to talk about the actual company it was in the 50s to 60s. So, WWE's origins can be traced back to the 50s, and its first ever share was on January 7th in 53 under Capital Wrestling Corporation, and that was when it was produced. There was some uncertainty as who the founder of CWC was, Some sources state it was Vincent J. McMahon, while others say it was his father, Roderick James Jess McMahon, who died in '54. As the original founder of CWC, the NWA recognised an undisputed NWA World Heavyweight Champion that went to several different professional wrestling promotions in the NWA. The championship was defended around the world. The NWA generally promotes strong shooters as champions to give their worked sport credibility, a guard against double crosses, while doing strong business in the Midwest. These wrestlers attracted little interest in the CWC territory in '61. The NWA board decided instead of put the championship on the bleach blonde shaman Buddy Rogers, who had the same nickname as Ric Flair's Nature Boy. That's where Ric Flair got his kind of shtick from. It was Buddy Rogers. A much more effective drawing card in the region. The rest of the NWA was unhappy with McMahon and Toots Mond because he rarely allowed Rogers to wrestle outside of the Northeast. Mond and McMahon wanted Rogers to keep the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, but Rogers was unwilling to sacrifice his $25,000 deposit on the championship belt. Championship holders at the time had to pay a deposit and ensure they honoured their commitments as champion. Rogers lost the NWA World Heavyweight Champion to Lou Thesz in one 4 match in Ontario, Canada on January 24th of '63, which led Mond, McMahon and the CWC leaving the NWA in protest, creating the WWF in the process. Right, so we're now going to get on to WWF, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Right, so we're going to talk about WWF. Well, not WWF, that's after this. The Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWF. So we're going to talk about the rise of Bruno Sammartino from '63 to '79. Right, so I know this picture's a bit shit, but we're going to talk about Bruno Sammartino and the rise and fall of him. So the rise of Bruno Sammartino in '63 to '79. The WWF was formed the 24th of '63 on April 25th, '63. Buddy Rogers was awarded the World Heavyweight Championship. He supposedly won a tournament in Rio de Janeiro. He lost the championship to Bruno Sammartino, who, by the way, is an Italian American. He does have a son called David as well, who became a wrestler but wasn't as popular as his father. And that was a month later, on May 17th of '63, after suffering a heart attack shortly before the match. It was Rogers who had done that. So to accommodate Rogers' condition, the match was booked to last under a minute, and Sammartino would retain the title 7 years and 8 months and 1 day, which is 2,803 days, which the way that they record them rather than the years and the months, making his reign the longest continuous world championship reign in men's wrestling history. Although Sammartino was the face of the company, wrestlers such as Superstar Billy Graham and Bob Backlund were also hugely popular, and the WWF gained notoriety in the '70s by holding their biggest shows at Shea Stadium and Madison Square Garden. So and doing strong business across the entire Northeast megalopolis. I'm not very good at saying some words, as you can clearly tell from other videos. They leveraged former but still popular wrestlers such as Captain Lou Albano, Grand Wizard of Wrestling Ernie Roth, and Classy Freddie Blassie to act as managers for Sammartino's heel opponents. At this time, and only babyface wrestlers were allowed to have long championship reigns, such as Bruno, Pedro Morales, Bob Backlund, who all retained for more than a year each, and the heel champions such as Ivan Koloff and Stan Stasiak were used as transition champions, and they genuinely kept the title for no more than a single month-long program before dropping it to the next babyface. Graham was the only heel character to keep the championship for longer than 1 month, as the WWF thought it was needed time to build Backlund up as championship material. So Bruno has, as you've already heard, has the longest championships. His son wasn't as successful, but he was seen as the like obviously he's a Hall of Famer. The longest 7 years is quite a long time to have a championship. I think the closest person that I can think of recently to have it for that long consecutively, most recently, is Roman Reigns, but that was with a different championship, not with the one he had won. So now we're going to get on to some different section of the WWF. Right, so the WWF was relatively conservative for promotions of its day, running its major arenas monthly rather than weekly or bi-weekly. Programs generally involved a babyface champion facing a heel challenger for 1 to 3 meetings in each scheduled town. Sorry, husband stepped on my dog. Running its major. Where was I? So for 1 to 3 meetings in each scheduled town for the longer programs, the heel would often win the first match in a non-decisive manner, such as a count out or by excessive blood. And the champion would then retain in the ultra-violent blow-off match, such as a steel cage or Texas Death Match. Unlike the most of the NWA territories, the main event would occur in the middle of arena show cards, allowing the company to build up upon the match's finish in order to sell tickets to the next event. Reliable, popular workers such as Chief Jay Strongbow would then wrestle to the end of the show to send the crowds home happy. And the WWF also featured popular wrestlers based on non-WWF territories such as Dusty Rhodes, and retained services at the time of the most popular and highly paid wrestler in the world, Andre the Giant, in between his territory and international obligations. WWF held their non-major event Showdown at Shea 3 times at Flushing, New York Shea Stadium in 72, 76 and 18. Bruno Sammartino main evented 72 and 18. Events 1972 and 1980, not like 80 events. Wrestling Pedro Morales to a 75 time limit draw in 72 and defeating Larry Zbyszko in a steel cage match in 1980. The main event of 76 event was boxer versus wrestler between Muhammad Ali and Antonio Inoki, which ended in a draw. At that event, Sammartino had retained the WWF World Heavyweight Championship against Stan Hansen. The 1972, 1976 and 1980 events each had attendance figures of 22,508 and 32,036,295 respectively. Toots Mondt left WWF in the late 60s, and Vince J. McMahon assumed complete control of the organization in 1971. Later that year, the Mongols created controversy after they left the WWF with the WWF International Tag Team Champions. As a result, the championship would be considered inactive until Luke Graham and Tarzan Tyler won the tournament to claim the championships. They had defeated the Mongols in November of 71, voiding any claim the Mongols had to the championship. Right, so we are now going to get into the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation. So we've just got Yeah, so we've got two more about the name changes and that, and then we've got two more name changes of WWF and WWE. Then we've got TKO to go, and then others is like the death of Owen Hart, Legends program, the Hall of Fame, some more controversies of the wrestling business itself, and then just the social media and stuff. And yeah, so we've got a few more stuff to go through. This isn't going to be as long as I thought it was going to be. Probably an hour and a half ish, maybe. I don't know. Later, I'll probably call myself out for saying that. Right, so we're going to get into the WWF. So this starts out with the purchase of Vince McMahon Jr. 79 to 84. So obviously a lot of you do know who Vince McMahon is. Vince McMahon Jr. So in March of '79, for marketing purposes, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation was renamed the World Wrestling Federation, the WWF. And in 1980, Vincent K. McMahon, the son of Vincent J. McMahon, founded Titan Sport Inc. and applied trademarks to the initials WWF. 2 years later, in 1982, McMahon purchased Capital Sports, the parent company of WWF, from his father and associates Gorilla Monsoon and Arnold Skakland, seeking to make WWF the premier wrestling promotion in the world. He began the expansion process that fundamentally changed the industry. An interview with Sports Illustrated, he had noted, in the old days there were wrestling fiefdoms, I think that's meant to say, all over the country, each with its own little lord in charge. Each little lord respected the right to his name, little lord. No takers and all raids were allowed. There were maybe 30 of these tiny kingdoms in the US, and if I hadn't bought out my dad, there would still be 30 of them, fragmented and struggling. I, of course, had no allegiance to those little lords. And upon taking over the company, McMahon Jr. immediately worked to get WWF programming on syndicate televisions all across the United States. This angered other promoters and disrupted the well-established boundaries of each wrestling promotion. In addition, the company used income generated by advertising, television deals, and tape sales to secure talent from rival promotions. Capital Sports already controlled most of the Northeastern Territory, but the younger McMahon wanted the WWF to be a national wrestling promotion, something the NWA did not approve of. He withdrew his promotion from the NWA, much like the American Wrestling Association, which controlled the upper Midwest, to become a national promotion. The WWF would have become bigger than the AWA or the NWA, any NWA promotion. So now we are going to get into the golden era of WWF in the 80s. I think it was 84 to 93. Right, so we're going to talk about the golden era. So McMahon's vision for his promotion was starting to become possible when he signed the AWA talent Hulk Hogan. As you can see, is for people who don't exactly know, this guy in the middle. Ignore the blue things. But this guy right in the middle, that's Hulk Hogan, if you don't already know him. Yeah, so McMahon had signed him, who had achieved popularity outside of the wrestling, notably for his appearance in Rocky 3 and as Thunder's Lips. I haven't watched the Rocky movies, but I know he was in it. I think he was playing the bad guy in Rocky 3 against Rocky. My son God, I can't speak today. McMahon had signed Rowdy Roddy Piper, who Ronda Rousey loved, and her design of her name was very similar to as Hogan's rival, and shortly afterwards signed Jesse the Body Ventura, which is this guy here on the end. That's Jesse the Body. And then other significant wrestlers who were part of it was in roster included Big John Studd, which I don't think many people know Big John Studd, but he was monster. He was like six, I think he was 6'7". I might be wrong on that, but he was quite tall, quite a big man. And then you got Andre, which is right at the back here behind Hulk Hogan, next to Paul Orndorff, which is this guy here. And then obviously there's Ric Flair as well in this photo. So yeah, there's Andre, there's Jimmy Superfly Snooker, the dad of Tamina, the magnificent Don Morocco, who has been WWE champion. Don Morocco has, I think. Yeah, I believe so anyway. There's Junkyard Dog. He's quite a well-known guy. He's never won a championship. And then there's Orndorff, Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful here. This guy. He had an injury in his arm. Left his muscle, like, not be able to get much muscle on there, so he had to retire for that. And then there's Greg the Hammer Valentine, which is, you can only just see half of him because it's kind of like calling him off a bit. This guy next to Paul Orndorff. Then there's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Nikolai Volkov. And in '84, Hogan was pushed to the main event status. He defeated the WWF World Heavyweight Champion Iron Sheik. I think Iron Sheik is Sabu's uncle. I believe, because I think it's Iron Sheik, or is it the Sheik? No, the Sheik is totally different. But the Iron Sheik, I believe, is Sabu's uncle. At Madison Square Garden on January 23rd of '84, thus evolved into one of the most recognisable and popular faces in professional wrestling. This event is often considered the start of the golden era or Hulkamania. With reasonable revenue being made, McMahon was able to secure television deals, and WWF was being shown across the United States. McMahon also began selling videotapes of WWF events outside the Northeast through his Coliseum Videos Disruption. God, I can't speak today. Basically, his company that distributed videotapes, he did it through that. What else did I get put down? So yeah, that angered other promoters. The syndication of WWF's programming forced promotions to engage in direct competition with WWF. The increased revenue allowed McMahon to sign more talent such as Brutus Beefcake, Tito Santana, Jake Snake Roberts, Butch Reed, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. However, McMahon, to truly turn WWF into a national promotion, I mean, he needed to have the WWF tour the entire United States, such a venture was possible with the revenue WWF currently had. So McMahon envisioned a way to obtain the necessary capital through the risky or nothing gambling supercard concept called WrestleMania in '85. WrestleMania would be a pay-per-view extravaganza. I was trying to make sure I said that properly. The ball on closed circuit television marketed as a Super Bowl of pro wrestling. WrestleMania was not the first supercard seen in professional wrestling, as the NWA previously ran Starrcade in '83. However, McMahon's vision was make WWF the industry itself mainstream, targeting more the general television audience by exploiting the entertainment side of the industry. I'm getting uncomfortable. So he wanted to get a general television audience. So WWF initiated a joint promotional campaign with the MVT. Oh God, today MTV, which featured a great deal of WWF coverage and programming in what was termed the Rock and Roll Wrestling Connection. The mainstream media attention brought celebrities including Muhammad Ali, Mr. T, and Cyndi Lauper. At the event helped propel WrestleMania to become the staple of popular culture, and the use of celebrities has been a staple of the company to present day. With the success of WrestleMania and other promotions which tried hard to keep the regional territories system alive, started to merge under Jim Crockett Promotions. Starrcade and the Great American Bash were GCP versions of WrestleMania, but even when operating inside of its territories, GCP had trouble matching the success of WWF. After Ted Turner's purchase of majority of JCW's assets, the promotion would become WCW, finding WWF with a competitor until 2001, when WCW and its trademark purchased by WWF. WrestleMania would become an annual pay-per-view phenomenon, being broadcast in 150 countries over almost 20 different languages. Perhaps the peak of 80s wrestling boom was WrestleMania 3 at Pontiac Silverdome, which was set to claim audience record of 93,173. In the main event, Hulk Hogan retained his championship against Andre the Giant. Hogan and Andre faced each other in a rematch of 5th February 85. In WF, the main event, which drew 15.2 Nielsen rating and 33 million viewers, of the highest in the history of professional wrestling. This time with Andre winning. McMahon used its success of WrestleMania to create more annual pay-per-views such as SummerSlam, the Royal Rumble, and Survivor Series. The latter both receiving their names unique stipulations. Matches feature the event of these four shows would jointly be known as the Big Four of the company's program until the modern day. During the 80s, Hulk Hogan would cross over into the mainstream prominence, presenting as an all-American hero, which, quite honest with you, isn't completely true in his personal life because he had made a lot of mistakes and throughout his life, and they were very public. Hogan's time as the face of the WWF would last until he departed the company in '93. The other stars were Macho Man Randy Savage, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Ultimate Warrior, and the Honky Tonk Man, in $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, and the others also helped make WWF a financial success in the period. Jim Duggan won the first Royal Rumble match in '88, while these talents were recognised. Shit on it. Right, sorry about that, but it decided that my hoodie wanted to be a knobhead and put Gregor Valentine on the screen, well, half his face. And a question: was Steve Crabtree a Greg Valentine? We don't know. Yeah, so ignore that, because I'm not starting this again because I have spoke too much and I cannot be bothered to be starting this again. Yeah, my hoodie decided he wanted me to go on to Greg Valentine, so you got a bit of Greg Valentine in this video. As I was saying, yes, Jim Duggan won the first Royal Rumble. While these talents were recognisable as individuals, some talents became better known as teamwork, part of a tag team, stables, or groups such as Demolition Strike Force, the Hart Foundation, British Bulldogs, the Rockers, and the Fabulous Rougeaus, helped create a strong tag team division for WWF. Towards the end of the Golden Age, Bret Hart and the Hart Foundation break out on his own as a single competitor, which was his most memorable match, taking place at SummerSlam in '92 against the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. Hart would eventually capture the WWF World Heavyweight Championship from Ric Flair that year and would win the King Ring tournament the following year. So, going into the new generation, hopefully, there'll be nobody popping up on the screen that I didn't really want to pop up on the screen. So, that's the new generation. There are some wrestlers on this that you can't really see because of how the screen recording has been put. But in '91, it was reported that Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Rick Martel, Brian Blair, and Dan Spivey were testifying against purchased steroids from the physician Dr. George T. Zahorian, who was being charged with illegal distribution of the drug. 2 years later, Vince McMahon was indicated due to his connection to Zahorian and was faced he faced 8 years in prison. And a $500 fine if convicted. The trial began on 7th of July '94 with a prosecutor who promised to expose the dark, corrupted underbelly of WWF. Claimed McMahon distributed steroids like candy and pressured wrestlers into taking the drug. The Wrestling Nails testified that McMahon had once said to him, "I strongly suggest you go on the gas." Days later, Hogan had admitted that he used steroids among the well, the that him and other wrestlers had used it, but denied ever being pressured into doing it so by McMahon. A week later, McMahon was acquitted of all charges and was quoted as saying, "I'm elated, just like in wrestling. In the end, the good guys always win." But as some of you already know, unfortunately, McMahon hasn't entirely won because he wasn't that much of a good guy. Business down in '92 because of a bad press of the steroid scandal and also the Ring Boy and Rita Chatterton sexual assault allegations. Rick McMahon began pushing younger talent spotlight over the next several years. By mid 1993, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Razor Ramon, Diesel, Lex Luger, Yokozuna, Owen Hart, Crush, and Tatanka, and others all became stars of the WWF, eventually the new generation. As you can see, throughout these names I just said, I think there's only most likely one, I think, that was completely ripped, and that was Lex Luger. The others had like muscles, but they weren't Hulk Hogan amount of muscles, they weren't huge, huge. Razor Ramon did have big biceps, and so did Diesel. But then you had like the major ones were Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, who were quite a lot smaller. In the 1993 King of the Ring pay-per-view events, which saw Hogan's last televised with the WF of the reminder of the 90s, and Bret Hart gaining the greatest prominence after winning King of the Ring tournament, has been regarded as a major focal point for the new generation era. Hulk would leave the company in summer '93, and Hart would become one of the most popular stars of this period until his departure in '97, and he went to WCW. Meanwhile, the competition became the major wrestling companies increased. In January '93, WWF created their primetime cable Monday Night Raw, which aired in the USA Network, and in '94, WCW signed Hulk Hogan and other former WWF stars multi-year contracts, and in 1995 launched Monday Nitro on TNT to go head-to-head with Raw, starting Monday Night War. And at WrestleMania X in '94, a ladder match between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon received critical acclaim and was said to be the groundbreaking to revolutionise the concept of ladder matches. I have watched that match on YouTube, and I do believe it's one of the best matches. Without, I think, for like it being the first ever concept of it, in a way, it's revolutionised it being used a bit more. Like the Money in the Bank came out of it, so I think it's like the start of it. It became one of the bigger ideas for the company. And by mid 1996, with the introduction of the NWO, a stable led by former wrestlers Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash, Nitro started a near 2-year rating domination. More talent would eventually leave WWF for WCW, including Ted DiBiase, Kurt Hennig, and Alundra Blaze, who was WWF Women's Champion at the time, and the 1-2-3 Kid, or known as X-Pac. While Bret Hart decided to stay with WWF in spite of lucrative offer by WCW. At Bad Blood in Your House in 1997, the first Hell in a Cell match would be held at between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, which Michaels won after interference from Undertaker's half brother and storyline Kane. The match received a critical acclaim. The Hell in a Cell match has since become one of the most popular gimmick matches in wrestling history. That was obviously the sorry for that. That was obviously like the debut of Kane. Quite a good debut, I think, especially considering Kane had a mystique when he first came, didn't he? So now we're getting on to the Attitude Era, which is '97 to 2002. Right, so with the Attitude Era, I actually have a book on the Attitude Era. I think I got with it because my stepmom bought it for me. I think I got a beer, a bottle opener. That's what I got. Stone Cold Steve Austin's logo. But yeah, I've got the book on this. I haven't read it in a very long time though. So, but in 1997, Vince McMahon responded to WCW's big success by taking the WWF in a different direction, more realistic characters and edgy storylines. One of the most prominent stars was Stone Cold Steve Austin, because obviously he represented what everyone wanted to do to the boss. Because a lot of people hate the boss. I don't really hate Ron that much, to be honest. She's all right, I guess. But yeah, he rose to popularity, began his 1996 King of the Ring, winning famous Austin 316 speech despite starting out as a villain. Austin Austin's popularity would start gradually exceed those of top fan favourites in the promotion. The D-Generation X group, consisting of Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Rick Rude, X-Pac, Road Dogg, and Billy Gunn and China, proved to be prominently successful during this time. At Survivor Series of November 9th, 97, WF debuted the Scratch logo, as you can probably see on you can see on the screen. You're probably going into later about them taking the F off. Which would be the company's signature throughout the Attitude Era. And on December 15th, 1997, Vince McMahon aired a promo on Raw is War addressing the audience, embarking on more innovative and God, I can't really speak today. Contemporary campaign. Jeez, I cannot speak. Which would advise parents' discretion for younger audiences. This same episode also marked the beginning of the Scratch logo being officially used for WWF television broadcast and went into full effect, replacing the Generation logo. In 97, McMahon also informed Bret Hart that he could no longer afford to pay him what his contract stated, and suggested that he go back to the more lucrative deal with WCW had offers to him. Hart signed with WCW, but behind the scenes controversy developed over Hart's final matches, resulting in the Montreal Screwjob, which is quite conversed about on YouTube. Hart was defending the WF Heavyweight Championship against Shawn Michaels at Survivor Series, when McMahon ordered the referee to award the match and championship to Shawn. So it was like the championship to Michaels as if Hart had submitted, while Hart went on to WCW. McMahon received enormous backlash from the media, wrestlers, and fans alike, inspiring him to create his well-known character, Mr. McMahon character. It's a villainous extension of his status as a promoter. Following Hart's departure, the company implemented a heavy push on popular anti-hero stars such as Stone Cold, whose popularity rising was similar to Hulk Hogan's popularity in the 80s. During the angle involving Mike Tyson, WrestleMania in 98, Austin became WWF champion by beating Shawn Michaels, giving the rise to Austin era and the desperatic Mr. McMahon character, which began a long-lasting feud with Austin. This feud would be very important in the WWF turning the tides rating war with its rival company WCW. Later in the year, new talent began to emerge at WWF. The Rock, Triple H, Mick Foley, Kurt Angle, Big Show, and Kane strengthened WWF singles division, while stables such as D-Generation X and Nation of Domination helped fight the rival company WCW. WWF head writer Vince Russo also contributed to the formation of D-Generation X in 97. The Undertaker vs. Kane feud in 98. Stone Cold Steve Austin vs. McMahon feud. The rise of The Rock, Mick Foley's three-face squash during the Attitude Era, which helped put Raw ahead of Nitro in the ratings. Russo's booking style was often referred to as Crash TV, which included edgy, controversial storylines involving sexual content, profanity, swerves, or unexpected heel turns, and worked shoots in the storylines, as well as short matches, backstage vignettes, shocking angles, and level of depicted violence. WWF rebounded in its ratings and popularity, with the Raw as War finally beating Nitro for the first time in 84 weeks. On April 13th, 1998, the ratings would continue to rise through 98 and 99. 12-minute match between Steve Austin and The Undertaker drew 9.5 rating and on June 28th, 1999, and it currently stands as the highest rated segment on Raw history. The Attitude Era saw WWF expand its television coverage in its business structure as well. During the summer of '99, WWF's parent company, Titan Sports, was renamed World Wrestling Federation Entertainment Inc., or WWFE Inc., or WWFE, and on October 19th, 1999, became a public traded company offering 10 million shares priced £17 each. No, not £70, sorry. $17. I see pounds because I'm English, so not British. But it is dollars because obviously it's an American company, sorry. And began trading on New York Stock Exchange in October of 2000. In 1999, WWF launched a secondary program, SmackDown, on UPN Network to compete with WCW's Thunder. SmackDown's pilot debut special on April 29, 1999, beginning on August 26, 1999. The WWF program was aired weekly in 2000. The WWF collaboration with television network NBC created XFL, Professional Football League. XFL was a failure, only lasted a single year before closing its doors. Head writer Chris Kreski replaced Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara, who defected to WCW in '99. Kreski work was amid well-planned and detailed storylines and traditional periods saw feuds storylines such as Triple H Cactus Jack feud, Triple H Kurt Angle, Stephanie McMahon Love Triangle, and the successful feud between Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, Dudley Boys at Survivor Series. WWF's top star Stone Cold Steve Austin was run over by a car at the Joe Louis Arena in Michigan to write him off television due to a serious neck injury. SummerSlam in 2000, WWF debuted Table Ladders and Chairs match, which was seeing Edge and Christian defeating the Dudley Boys and Hardy Boys for the WWF Tag Team Championships. Prior to WrestleMania 2000, the McMahon family had gone into on-screen rivalry with each other for the first time, setting up the McMahon in every corner four-way elimination main event between Big Show, managed by Shane, The Rock with Mr. McMahon, Triple H with Stephanie McMahon Helmsley, and the future Commissioner Mick Foley with Linda McMahon. Triple H won after Mr. McMahon had turned on The Rock, thus retaining the WWF Championship. This was historically significant as the first time a heel wrestler had won the main event in WrestleMania. Stone Cold Steve Austin would make his return at Unforgiven in 2000, then would make his in-ring turn at No Mercy to gain revenge on Rikishi, who would revealed to be the one who ran him over. Austin would go on to win the next year's Royal Rumble match and came out victorious against Rock for the WWF champion at WrestleMania X7, with help from his former rival Mr. McMahon turning into a villain in the process. At this point of WWF won the Monday Night Wars against WCW. So I'm just gonna get a drink, guys, because my mouth is dry. Alright, so we're gonna talk about the invasion, well, the purchase of WCW and the invasion angle. So in the invasion storyline, Shane McMahon, kayfabe wise, acquired WCW in April of 2001, and WCW personnel invaded WWF. The first time since Monday Night War, WWF's purchase of WCW had made a major American international feud possible, but the invasion turned out to be disappointing to many fans. One of the main reasons would be that many of WCW big name stars were still under contract with WCW's old parent company, Time Warner, rather than WCW itself, and their contracts were not included in the purchase of the company. These wrestlers chose to sit out the duration of the contracts and be financially supported by AOL, Time Warner, rather than work for WWF for a cheaper salary. On July of 2001, the stars of WCW and Extreme Championship Wrestling, or ECW, acquired by Stephanie McMahon in related storyline, joined forces, forming the alliance with WCW and Shane McMahon and the new owner of ECW, Stephanie McMahon, leading the charge. With the support of the Original CW owner Paul Heyman. At the invasion, Stone Cold Steve Austin turned on WWF and helped the alliance win the inaugural brawl. At Survivor Series, WWF defeated WCW and ECW winner takes all match, and the angle was concluded in an aftermath invasion angle. WWF made several major changes to the product. Ric Flair returned to WWF as co-owner of the company, feuding with Vince McMahon. Jerry Lawler returned to the company after a 9-month hiatus after his replacement on commentary. Paul Heyman was fired on the screen by Vince McMahon. Several former stars were absorbed into regular WWF rosters such as Booker T, the Hurricane, Lance Storm, and Rob Van Dam. At Vengeance 2001, Chris Jericho went to unify his WCW Championship and WWF Championship, beating both The Rock and Stone Cold on the same night. Eventually, Vince McMahon brought back Hollywood, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall throughout the NWO at the No Way Out pay-per-view in 2001. However, Hogan proved to be too popular to nostalgic fans of the Golden Era, Hulkamania, and soon turned face at WrestleMania X8 after his classic match with The Rock, which The Rock won with an excess of talent deployed as a result of having purchased WCW and later ECW. The WWF needed a way past to expose all of its talent. This problem saw introducing a brand extension with the roster split in half, talent signed to Raw, SmackDown in a mock draft lottery. Wrestlers, commentators, and referees became show exclusives, and the shows were given separate on-screen general managers. On March 25th, 2002, episode of Raw, the WWF had its first WWF draft lottery, which meant WWF wrestlers have separated two brands, Raw and SmackDown. This became effective on April 1st, 2002. Geez, that was a long one. Seems that the new generation, not new generation, WWF, quite a long time though, to be fair, WWF, from 1979 to 2002. Because I think we'll get into it in a bit about why it changed its name. So we went into WWE. Starting with the Ruthless Aggression era from 2002 to 2008, which I do think I quite liked about that time. I was quite young at the time when we did that, but I'll get into that in a minute. Give me a sec, just to get it up. Right, so we're going to get into the Ruthless Aggression era of the WWE. So in 2002, the WWF lost its lawsuit with World Wildlife Fund over the WWF trademark. The WWF was forced to rebrand itself and change its business name to World Wrestling Entertainment on May 6, 2002. The company also dropped its WWF Attitude moniker the same day and limited all use of the word Federation. This affected the licensed merchandise such as action figures, video games, and home releases, which with the previous logo. It was replaced with a new scratch logo, only the letter W's and a red slash at the bottom of the logo. However, the old block logo, which the company was no longer using at the time of the legal dispute, was a full length, and the full length WWF name can be used by WWE when referencing history during this time. The company launched WWE Studios, which originally formed as WWE Films. On June 24th, 2002 episode of Raw, Vince McMahon officially named the new era the Ruthless Aggression. Later that same year, after WWE champion Brock Lesnar became exclusive to SmackDown, brand with the creation of the World Heavyweight Championship. All the championships became show exclusive too. Additionally, both Raw and SmackDown became to stage individual pay-per-view events featuring only performers from that brand, with the only major 4 pay-per-views, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series, remaining dual-branded. The practice of single-brand pay-per-view events was abandoned following WrestleMania 23. In effect, Raw and SmackDown were operated as 2 distinct promotions, with the draft lottery taking place each year to determine which talent was assigned to each brand. This lasted until 2011, when the rosters were merged. The brand search was quietly phased out. After the company's transition to the Ruthless Aggression era, this period was still featured on many elements of its predecessor, the Attitude Era, including levels of violence, sex, and profanity, but there was less politically incorrect content, and further emphasis on the wrestling was showcased. The two top stars of the Attitude Era, Stone Cold and The Rock, eventually left the company in 2003 and 2004, respectively, while the newcomers such as Brock Lesnar, who became the youngest WWE champion, and Randy Orton, who became the youngest World Heavyweight champion, saw huge success. Triple H, who also be featured prominently during his time in several of his 14 World Championships, as would The Undertaker, whose WrestleMania win streak started gaining fame. Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Edge, Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, John Cena, Batista, John Bradshaw, Layfield, and Rob Van Dam were also given main event opportunities and all ended up becoming multi-time world champions. From mid 2002 to 2003, WWE bought several prominent WCW stars to the company, including Eric Bischoff, Scott Steiner, Goldberg, Kevin Nash, and Ric Flair in the Great American Bash, originally the WCW pay-per-view event, made its debut as a WWE event. In August of 2002, Shawn Michaels would also return as a wrestler at SummerSlam after a hiatus of 4 years. After he had hurt his back in the match, I think he hurt his back in a casket match against The Undertaker. He hurt his back on the casket, so he was retired for 4 years. He would achieve a great success and won the World Heavyweight Champion at the first Elimination Chamber at Survivor Series. The match between Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, WrestleMania 21, had been named one of the greatest matches in WWE history. Though Angle won the match, Michaels received praise for his courageous efforts. In 2006, Michaels would reunite with Triple H and again form the popular 90s group DX. They would have major feuds with Spirit Squad, the McMahon family, and Rated RKO, which was Randy Orton and Edge, if you didn't get it by the race split from Edge and RKO from Randy Orton, which ended prematurely when Triple H suffered a torn quadricep muscle in 2006 at New Year's Revolution. Right, so let's get on with this. Eddie Guerrero, from the famous Mexican Guerrero wrestling family, achieved huge stardom during this period. He gained a large fan base in 2003 on SmackDown, which led to the rapid increase in his popularity, promoting him to his main event status, and he ultimately won his first World Heavyweight it's World Championship, and the WWE Championship at No Way Out 2004, defeating Brock Lesnar. I have actually watched that match. It's quite a good match, to be fair. With the people in it. Obviously he was doing his he lies, cheats, steal thing. The way it finished is quite on point for Eddie. He remained the top wrestler of the company after winning the WWE title. So yeah, he won the title. How was that? So until his untimely death on November 13th, 2005, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame the following year. Guerrero's death was due to his drug addictions caused WWE to interplay the wellness policy to prevent wrestlers from taking drugs. The circumstances of his death will provide a medium for his on and off screen friend Rey Mysterio to emerge as the major main eventer and win the 2006 Royal Rumble match and the World Heavyweight Championship WrestleMania 22. Mysterio had begun his rivalry with the villainous nephew of Eddie, Chavo, who had cost him the World Heavyweight Championship during his match against King Booker. During the feud, with Mysterio injured to his knee and would be sidelined for the rest of 2006 and 2007, halting his main event push. Mysterio returned to defeat Chavo in 2007, additional SummerSlam, and remained popular fan favourite. John Cena was one of the biggest breakout stars of ruthless aggression era. There we go, got there. Upon his debut, Cena quickly proved popular due to his Dr. Thugonomics, a white rapper gimmick on the SmackDown round, receiving WWE Championship match against Brock Lesnar in his Spring of Backlash 2003, and a major feud with The Undertaker during the summer. At WrestleMania 21, he won his first World Heavyweight Championship against John Layfield. The WWE. Right, so the WWE champion at the time. Cena's popularity soared when he was drafted to Raw, where he quickly became the face of WWE, as a rise not seen as Austin as Hulk Hogan. Cena's popularity led him to become the all-time record wish maker for Make-A-Wish Foundation, granting over 500 wishes as of August 2017. Cena secured victories over Triple H, Shawn Michaels in the main events of WrestleMania 22 and 23. A popular wrestler during the period was Bobby Lashley from the ECW brand. Cena would defeat Lashley at the Great American Bash in 2007, a well-received match. Shortly after which Lashley left the WWE. After being sidelined due to shoulder injury the latter half of 2007, Cena returned to 2008 Royal Rumble match, winning the match. Triple H, Randy Orton, and Ric Flair and Batista were part of a stable called Evolution, who were prominently featured between 2003 and 2005 until their eventual breakup. Beginning in the early 2005, the popularity of Batista would soar so much like Cena's. But in the 2005 Royal Rumble, the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 21 from Triple H. Later in 2005, Batista would go on to defeat Triple H in a highly acclaimed Hell in a Cell match at Vengeance. Although Batista would have major success in months following his championship win, he would suffer an injury in early 2006 and miss that year's WrestleMania. After returning and eventually winning another World Championship at WrestleMania 23 in 2007, Batista would defend the title against Undertaker in a classic encounter, though he lost the match. However, Batista defeated The Undertaker Sunday. Cena and Batista would not face each other for the first time until SummerSlam in 2008, with Batista winning. Randy Orton became prominent during this period, becoming the youngest world champion in WWE history at the age of 24, defeating Chris Benoit 2004 SummerSlam event, dubbed the Legend Killer. He would go on to have feuds with the legendary Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, facing WrestleMania 21 and the 2006 SummerSlam event, respectively. God, all this talking is making me stutter a bit. Along with Edge, he would make the tag team rated RKO to find success in the tag team division. After returning to the same competition, Orton became a multi-time WWE champion. In 2007, Orton became a long-lasting on and off rival with John Cena that lasted until 2014. Orton would be involved in a lengthy rivalry with former Evolution leader Triple H, defeating him in a last man standing match at No Mercy in 2007, but a year later losing to him in another last man standing match at One Night Stand in 2008. Rising star CM Punk made his WWE debut in 2006, wrestling his first main event match at Survivor Series that year, and 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination match, part of Team DX, in a victory over Team Rated RKO in 2008. He won the Money in the Bank briefcase. He cashed it in on World Heavyweight Champion Edge, winning the title on the same night. He had defend the title against John Bradshaw Layfield in the main event, but retained it. The final WWE event to receive an adult-oriented rating was the pay-per-view Great American Bash in 2008, where Triple H retained the WWE Championship against Edge in the main event match. Following the event, WWE shifted to TV PG family friendly programming. Got a bit more to go on this because WWE has got a very lustrous history by the looks of it. Alright, so where was I? Right, we're going to get into Money in the Bank 2005. So before anyone says this is not the post for 2005, I couldn't find the post for 2005's Money in the Bank. But the concept of the Money in the Bank match was introduced in 2005 by Chris Jericho. Jericho pitched the idea of a set of Raw to Eric Bischoff, who liked it and probably signed it for WrestleMania 21 signing. Jericho, Christian, Chris Benoit, Edge, Shelton Benjamin, and Kane. Edge won this match, and since many times of this match became a way to help elevate new stars to the main event, which with winners such as CM Punk, The Miz, Daniel Bryan, Alberto Del Rio, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose. The match format was originally exclusive to the annual WrestleMania until 2010, when the Money in the Bank became a pay-per-view. In 2017, the first women's Money in the Bank was held, and which was won by Carmella. So that bit's a bit shorter. We're going to get into the return of ECW with 2006 2010. So we are going to talk about ECW and WWE. I quite frankly do not like this logo. I do think it's a good idea, because it's a razor blade and that's what they used. But yeah, the return of ECW. By 2004, WWE began introducing Extreme Championship Wrestling through content from WCW's video library, a series of books, included the release of The Rise and Fall of ECW. In 2006, WWE relaunched the franchise with its own show on Sci-Fi Channel, later to be known as Sci-Fi, with spelled SYFY, starting in June 2006. Despite the initial concerns that professional wrestling would not be accepted by the Sci-Fi Channel's demographic, President Bonnie Hammer stated that she believed ECW would fit in the channel's theme, stretching the imagination. On June 13th, Paul Heyman, former ECW's owner and the newly appointed figurehead of the ECW brand, recommissioned the ECW World Heavyweight Championship to be the brand's World Championship and awarded it to Rob Van Dam. As a result of winning the WWE Championship at One Night Stand 2006 under the WWE's banner, ECW was presented a modernised style to when it was an independent promotion, and was produced to follow the same format as the other brands, with match rules such as countouts and disqualifications, but being standard. Matches featured rule sets of the ECW promotion were classified as being contested on Extreme Rules, where they only fought when when it was specified. The brand would continue to operate until February 2010, when the brand was rendered defunct. Right, we're going to get into the PG era. From 2008 to 2014. Right, so the PG era. This is the era I grew up most of the time watching. I was born during the Ruthless Aggression era because I was born in 2002. So I watched a bit of that when I was really young. But this was the one I grew up watching with my brother. My brother is 4 years older than me, so he would have been watching the Ruthless Aggression era when I was really really young. But in summer of 2008, WB began distancing itself from the edge of content, going for a more conservative approach. On July 22nd, 2008, all programming was transitioned to PG, with the 2008 SummerSlam event being the first pay-per-view held under the PG rating, although SmackDown's brand TV shows were always held under TV PG ratings since the inception in 1999. 2008 Raw TV shows were broadcast as TV 14 ratings, started broadcast under PG ratings, while fans would dub this the PG era early on. Reference of the wrestlers themselves would come on later. Triple H saying their Kingdom Come documentary when telling on the episode for off the table for free. Another notable example was when John Cena's famous finished move, the FU, was renamed Attitude Adjustment, initially blading, which was common until then, became forbidden. John Cena remained the top star of the company during this era. Newcomers Sheamus and Alberto also registered notable success during this period, winning the WWE Championship in the years 2009 and 2011. Also, 2009, GX was reunited by Triple H and Shawn Michaels to feud with The Legacy. This consists of Cody Rhodes, Ted DiBiase, and the leader Randy Orton, who were all. Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes were. No, actually, Cody Rhodes is a second generation. Ted DiBiase and Randy Orton are third generation. Because Ted DiBiase's dad is Ted DiBiase Senior, and then there's Mike DiBiase, who was Ted DiBiase Senior's dad or stepdad, and then Randy Orton's dad is Bob Orton, and his granddad is Bob Orton Senior. And then Generation X would later win to unify the tag team titles from Chris Jericho and Big Show in a TLC match, a rival between CM Punk and Jeff Hardy in 2009. This was over Hardy's real-life drug addiction issues. After Punk forced Hardy to storyline quit, Punk would form a villain stable called the Straight Edge Society and would feud with Rey Mysterio. At WrestleMania in 2010, Shawn Michaels retired following a loss to The Undertaker, which quite frankly is one of the best matches in WrestleMania history. I believe it's amazing. In August 2011, WWE began to phase out the brand extension. They gave Raw the tagline Super Show, meaning wrestlers appeared both on Raw and SmackDown. The year 2011 was saw a highly acclaimed feud between the company's two high-profile wrestlers at the point, John Cena and CM Punk. Their match at Money in the Bank on July 17th, 2011 was named one of the greatest matches in history. A match Punk won. Punk, who had become a top star during the summer of 2011 due to his famous pipe bomb promo, would win the WWE Championship at 2011 Survivor Series event and hold it for 434 days before losing to The Rock in 2013 at the 2013 Royal Rumble. CM Punk's reign was recognised by WWE as the longest WWE Championship reign in 25 years. The Rock held the championship until he was defeated by John Cena at WrestleMania 29 in a rematch from about the previous year. The stable The Shield was prominently featured during this time, being involved in various high-profile storylines. On December 15th, 2013, the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship was unified at TLC. A match between John Cena and Randy Orton, which Orton won to be unified the championship, was briefly called the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, but would be renamed as the WWE Championship. Right, so I dropped that then. As you can probably see, this is the NXT game show logo. Kind of lost where I was. Yes, this is the launch of NXT in 2010, so this is the original logo. So then it was launched on the program Sci-Fi called NXT. Premise of the show was a reality-like show. They saw 8 new stars being mentored by wrestlers from the main roster. Ran just over 3 months, with the last episode of the first season being on June 1st, 2010. The winner was Wade Barrett, mentored by Chris Jericho. 6 days after the end of the first season, the rookies, now call themselves the Nexus, interfered in the Raw main event between John Cena and CM Punk, attacking both wrestlers and the announcers before dismantling the ring. During the segment, Daniel Bryan strangled Justin Roberts with his tie, and WWE felt this was too violent. They actually released Bryan from his contract. He was not a work or anything. They released him outright. Bryan later was rehired due to outrage from the fans, and he joined Team WWE against Team Nexus in 2010 SummerSlam. This was a tag team match, 7-on-7. NXT lasted for 3 complete seasons, which were won by Cavill, Caitlyn, and Johnny Curtis. And the 5th season, dubbed the NXT Redemption, featuring the former NXT participants, quietly ended with Derek Bateman, a sole remaining participant. Eventually, the show morphed into a television show with it became the new official developmental territory replacing FCW. NXT had been based in Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida from 2012 to 2020. In fall of 2020, NXT left the Full Sail and moved to the home base of the WCW Performance Center, also in Orlando. From 2019 until 2021, NXT was promoted as WWE's third main brand alongside Raw and SmackDown, but in September 21, it was reset to NXT 2.0, resuming its role as developmental. There we go. 1 year later, the 2.0 branding was removed. So now we're getting into the reality era of WWE between 2014 and 2016. Alright, so we're getting into the reality era now. Give me a minute. Alright, so reality era is from 2014 to 2016, so it was only 2 years. Let's see what it says. So in 2013, Daniel Bryan became one of the most popular wrestlers in the company. On several occasions, fans would begin hijacking segments with which Bryan was not involved in, or involved only secondary. With his yes chant after the night after 2014 Royal Rumble, CM Punk quit due to feeling mistreated, while also dealing with the midnight. Well, I don't know if that's been recorded, so I'm going to go through some of it again. Right, I'm hoping this one stays on. Right, so I'm trying to record and the microphone went off, so I don't know where I got up to because I don't know. Well, I'm going to start from yeah. So basically, fans would hijack everything with Daniel Bryan's yes chance because he was so popular. CM Punk, the night after Royal Rumble 2014 left, he felt mistreated and he was also dealing with a staph infection that was misdiagnosed. Meanwhile, found outrage over the misuse of Bryan's character resulted in an unplanned change of WrestleMania. On March of 24th, 2014, episode of Raw, Bryan's rival at the time, Triple H, dubbed at this point WWE's reality era. Bryan would eventually be inserted into the main event, defeating Orton and Batista in a critically acclaimed triple threat match to become the World Heavyweight Championship in the process. Also at WrestleMania, The Undertaker was defeated for the first time in the event by Brock Lesnar, following 21 consecutive victories dating back to 1991. Brock Lesnar would go on to defeat John Cena at SummerSlam to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. This would be seen at the end of Cena's position as a face of WWE. As a position Cena had held since 2005, Lesnar would go on to be featured as the most dominant wrestler of this era. The introduction of the WWE Network and the WWE Performance Center was also major breakthroughs during this period. On a Stone Cold podcast episode that aired in 2015, Triple H and Stone Cold both stated that kayfabe had died in the modern WWE. Triple H also acknowledged that fans nowadays are more knowledgeable about the behind-the-scenes workings of WWE, as well as have been more influenced on the company than ever before. The Triple H match that 2015 Royal Rumble event between Seth Rollins, John Cena, and Brock Lesnar received critical acclaim and was widely recognised as the best matches of the year. The US Championship Open Challenge match between the champion John Cena and challenger Cesaro on 2015 edition of Raw was also widely praised as one of the best matches in Raw history and was awarded the Slammy Award for the best United States Champion Open Challenge match by WWE. Sting, a WCW legend, who had previously been dubbed the greatest wrestler never to wrestle in WWE, made his debut in Survivor Series in 2014 and his first ever match in WWE at WrestleMania 31 against Triple H, a match he would lose. Also at WrestleMania 31, Seth Rollins became the first person to cash in on a Money in the Bank contract at WrestleMania, and when he did, during the main event match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, for the WWE Championship, turning it into the Triple H triple threat match with Rollins successfully winning the title. and this was been dubbed the heist of the century in WWE. WrestleMania 32 in Arlington, Texas, billed as Dallas, garnered the largest crowd to ever attend a WWE event, surpassing a disputed 100,000 attendees. In the main event, Roman Reigns defeated Triple H to capture the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, despite the segment of the WWE fans pushing back Reigns' push from the company in the lead up. The authority officially disbanded on May 1st, 2016. So getting to the new era now, which was 2016 to 2021. 2016 payback event held on May 1st, 2016 was billed as the start of the new era. In the main event, Roman Reigns retained his World Heavyweight Championship against AJ Styles. Reigns would go on to be prominently featured throughout this era. And in 2016, WWE relaunched the roster split, similar to the one in 2002. Three former members of the Shield, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins, have been heavily featured since the start of the new era, with all three men exchanging the WWE World Championship and Money in the Bank in 2016, while the WWE World Championship was assigned to SmackDown, and the new WWE Universal Championship was introduced to the Raw brand, with Finn Balor becoming the first ever champion in August of 2016 SummerSlam event after defeating Seth Rollins. The Divas division was rebranded as a women's division, and the company introduced the WWE Women's Championship and retired the former Divas Championship. Female wrestlers also began receiving more airtime in their matches and began receiving as much a spotlight as their male colleagues. Thus, the new era has been credited as the start of the women's revolution. On the Raw brand in the Style pay-per-view event in 2016, Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks made history, being the first WWE pay-per-view main evented by women and participating in the first ever women's Hell in a Cell. Women started to be participating in matches like before them were only male only, like Money in the Bank, Royal Rumble, and the Elimination Chamber. In 2018, WWE held their first ever women's pay per view, WWE Evolution, which saw a highly acclaimed last woman standing match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, which Lynch won. At this point, Becky started referring to herself as the man. Becoming one of the most popular stars. This culminated at WrestleMania 35 when three women, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Ronda Rousey, main evented the pay per view, which Becky Lynch winning the match. First time in history that WrestleMania was main evented by women. And the other notable occurrence, WrestleMania 35, Kofi Kingston became the first African born WWE champion by defeating Daniel Bryan. And at NXT TakeOver War Games 2017, popular WCW gimmick War Games match made its return after 17 years. The Undisputed Era and defeated the Authors of Pain and Sanity in well-received War Games match. And in 2018, WC criticisms for holding major shows in Saudi Arabia due to human rights violations there. WWE would go on to establish Braun Strowman as one of the biggest stars in the company in 2017 after he attacked injured Reigns during an interview on Raw. Strowman went to beat down other wrestlers on the roster, decisive victory over Reigns at Payback on April 30th. Top wrestler John Cena became part of a part-timer around this time and lost to Roman Reigns because he passed the torch match. In 2017 No Mercy event on 24th of September. Popular stable The New Day would also register notable success, becoming 11-time tag team champions, which is a record underneath the Freebird rule. The New Day and the Shield faced off in 2017 Survivor Series event, and the Shield won. Shield member Dean Ambrose left in 2019 after their final match together featured special event WWE The Shield's final chapter. WrestleMania 36 became the first WrestleMania to be taped with no audience, as opposed to airing live due to COVID, and it was shown 2 nights of April 4th and April 5th. The main event of night 1 was Undertaker v AJ Styles in a Boneyard match, which was well praised, and later in November 20 confirmed that Undertaker's final match. And in main event of night 2, Drew McIntyre defeated Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship, which was critically panned for its short length, despite having no attendance due to the circumstances. WrestleMania 36 was the most viewed event in WWE history, with a record of 967 million views combined on both nights across the company's digital and social platforms. On July 2nd, 2020, WWE purchased rival turned partner wrestling promotion Evolve and acquired all of the wrestling talents rights. WWE held the inaugural NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver April 7th and April 8th of 2021 as a two-night event. So we're getting to COVID and the Thunderdome. So in March 2020, WWE began to be impacted by the onset of the coronavirus, and the March 11th episode of NXT, filmed without spectators at WWE Performance Center in Orlando, as a 3 or 4 major sports leagues 2 days earlier had to close locker rooms to a media's precautionary measure, as other sports cancellation postponements followed. WWE began with the March 13th episode of SmackDown, started filming the weekly programs at the Performance Center with no spectators, only essential staff present. Major pay-per-view events, including WrestleMania 36, aired tapes without any attendance, supposed to being aired live. NXT continued as Full Sail University, but under similar restrictions. The highly advertised NXT Takeover in Your House aired tapes June in 2020. However, certain WWE officials were used as part of their very limited crowd event. Live broadcast returned on April 3rd, with the existing arrangements continuing. WWE stated to the NSPN.com that we believe it is no more important to ever to provide people diversion from these hard times. The company's program brings families together, delivering a sense of hope, determination, and I can't say that word. It was subsequently reported that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis had deemed WWE business critical to the state economy and had an exception um under the state's stay-at-home order for employees of professional sports and media production that is closed to public and has a national audience. The decision was met with criticism from media outlets, with several media outlets pointing out the DeSantis actions happened the same day pro-Trump political action committee led Linda McMahon, who previously a part of Trump's cabinet, pledged to spend 18.5 million in advertising in Florida, and that also on the same day Vince McMahon was named part of the Advisory Group that created Trump diversity strategy and relaunching US economy. This does go on for a very long time, I think, for this modern the WWE, and then we've got TKO to go as well. So we're going to get into post COVID-19 period. This was from 2021 to 2023. Which has changed quite a lot from. Is a lot of things have happened since then. So obviously we're talking about post COVID now of WWE. So with the COVID-19 restrictions being gradually lifted during the first half of 2021, WWE returned to having live crowds for the WrestleMania 37, which took place in April 10th and 11th of 21. Paying fans to participate at reduced capacity attended the events from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida, on the two-night show. WWE being back in business, Bobby Lashley, who had left in 2008, came back after a decade in 2018 and won the WWE Championship in 2021, defeated Drew McIntyre on night one of WrestleMania to retain the title. Bianca Belair became the dominant star in the women's division in 2021 after she had won 2021's Women's Royal Rumble, defeated Sasha Banks in the main event of night one of WrestleMania 37 to win the SmackDown Women's Championship. On the April 30th of 21 episode of WWE SmackDown, fan favourite Daniel Bryan lost to Roman Reigns in a championship versus career match for the Universal Championship and had left WWE. WWE NXT was revamped, made changes to NXT 2.0, starting from September 14th, 2021, which will resume full live touring with full capacity crowds on July 17th. And with the live broadcast SmackDown on Dickies Arena, Fort Worth, Texas, followed next by Money in the Bank pay-per-view, same venue. At night one of WrestleMania 38 in 2022, veteran Stone Cold Steve Austin came out of retirement after 19 years and one time only defeating Kevin Owens. The following night of WrestleMania, in the main event, Roman Reigns defeated Brock Lesnar in winner takes all match for the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship, become the first ever wrestler to hold both titles together at the same time. WWE also began heavily pushing Cody Rhodes and Rhea Ripley during this time, having them win the 2023 Men's and Women's Royal Rumble matches, while Ripley defeated Charlotte Flair to win the Women's Championship. On WrestleMania 39, Rose was defeated by Roman Reigns, main event undisputed Women's Universal Championship, the WWE Universal Championship. Sorry, the match at night 2, WrestleMania 39. WrestleMania 39 also became the highest grossing WWE event of all time as of 2023. At Night of Champions in 2023, Seth Rollins defeated AJ Styles in the tournament final to become the inaugural winner of the newly established World Heavyweight Championship. On September 2nd, 2023, WWE held Payback, their final pay-per-view prior to transfer of ownership in the main event, which Seth Rollins defeated Shinsuke Nakamura to retain his World Heavyweight Championship. Now, I am speaking a bit quicker now because it is getting a bit long and it's a bit late and I need to get food. So we're going to get into leadership changes. Right, so we're going to talk about the leadership change of WWE. On June 17, 2022, amidst an investigation of WWE's board, hush money paid to former employee by Vince McMahon following an affair. Mr. McMahon stepped down and was replaced by his daughter Stephanie McMahon as the interim chairwoman and CEO of WWE. So about the change, Vince McMahon came out on WWE SmackDown that night, opening the show, brief speech. Then, Now, and Forever, the most important together, was quoted by various news media as Vince letting people know that he's still in creative control behind the scenes. And of July of 22nd, 2022, Vince McMahon officially retired. At 77, it's time for me to retire. Thank you, WWE Universe, and now forever together. Following Vince's retirement, Stephanie McMahon was officially named chairwoman, while she and Nick Khan were named co-CEOs of WWE. Triple H would take over head of creative, while assuming his position as executive vice president of talent relations. Commentators would highlight the significance of Vince McMahon's retirement, saying that it was marks the start of a new period of WWE's history. The 2022 SummerSlam event held on July 30th was the first WWE event to be held under the leadership of Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. And on August 18th, 2022, Hall of Fame Shawn Michaels was promoted to be the WWE Vice President of Talent Development Creative. On September 22, WWE promoted Paul Levesque to CCO. On January 2023, Vince McMahon stated his intention to return to the company ahead of social media rights negotiations. WWE media rights with Fox USA Network were expiring in 2024. Same with JP Morgan were hired to hand a possible company to Comcast, Disney, Warner Bros. Discovery, Netflix, Amazon, Endeavor Group Holdings, and Liberty Media, beginning the speculation of for buying the company, with CAA, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, also on the list. On January 10th, 2023, Stephanie McMahon resigned as chairwoman and co-CEO. On the same day, Vince McMahon assumed the role of executive chairman, while Nick Khan was the sole CEO of the company. Acquisition of WWE's Endeavor. On April 3rd, 2023, WWE and Endeavor reached the deal which WWE would merge with UFC's parent company to form a new company, which would go public on the New York Stock Exchange, symbol TKO. Endeavor will hold 51% stake in TKO, with WWE shareholders holding 59% stake, valuing WWE at $91 billion. This marked the first time WWE had not been majority controlled by the McMahon family. Vince McMahon will serve as an chairman of new entity, and other CEO Ari Emanuel becomes CEO, with Mark Shapiro as president and chief operating officer. Emmanuel will not take any creative roles with WWE's head of creative Paul Levesque, expected to remain his role, and Nick Khan becoming the president of WWE post merger. Unlike Dana's what not unlike Dana's White's role as president of the UFC. The deal additionally granted McMahon life tenure executive chairman. The right nominated five WWE representatives on the 11 member board, as well as veto rights over certain actions by the new company. In addition, McMahon will own 34% of the new company with 16% voting interest. Emmanuel stated that this merger would bring together two leading pure play sports and entertainment companies and provide significant operating synergies. I think that's meant to say. Vince McMahon stated that family business have to evolve for all the right reasons, and that given that incredible work that Ari and Endeavor have done to grow a UFC brand, nearly doubling its revenue over the 7 years, and the immense success we've already had in partnering with them on the number of ventures, I believe this without doubt will be the best outcome for the shareholders and other stakeholders. Right, so now we've got that out of the way, the WWE section, we're going to be getting on to TKO. I've got TKO and then other stuff. This is going to take a bit of time because it is quite a big history they've got. So we're going to get on to TKO now. Right, so we're going to get on to TKO, which is the current holder of them. So I don't think I'm only not going to get into all of it. I'm just going to get into some of it because we already spoke about how they merged together. So we're going to say that going to go from on January 23rd, 2024, Dwayne Johnson also became also known as The Rock, joined TKO Group Holdings board of directors 3 days later on January 26th. Vince McMahon once again resigned due to further sexual misconduct allegations, with Ari Emanuel obtaining greater control of the new chairman of TKO. In 2024, Triple H stated that the WWE entered another era on April 3rd. WWE wrestler Cody Rhodes coined the term Resonance era for a period. At the WrestleMania XL, the WWE would officially debut a new signature intro ahead of its event's first match. Paul Levesque would introduce fans in the audience. Welcome to the new time. Welcome to the new era. And at the WrestleMania second night, Stephanie McMahon would reiterate this, referring to the Paul Levesque era. April 7th in the main event, second night final of the event. Cody Rhodes defeated Roman Reigns to become the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. May 4th, 2024, to be held Backlash France, first ever pay-per-view event in France. In 2024, January 23rd, WWE announced that WWE Raw will move to Netflix. In January 2025, while also providing behind-the-scenes series. On October 29, WWE announced the launch of the Independent Wrestling Development Program, named as WWID, short for WWE Independent Development. In 2024, WWE began wider talent exchange with TNA. Several TNA wrestlers were making appearances on NXT's weekly television series, live streaming events, and vice versa. Multi-year partnership with Total Nonstop Action and WWE officially announced in January 2025. WWE formed a partnership with Pro Wrestling Noah, Dreamstar Fighting, Marigold, and in 2025, April 19th, before start of WrestleMania 41, it was announced that WWE acquired Lucha Libre Triple H Worldwide in conjunction with Philippe and a Mexican sport entertainment company as part of WWE's global expansion. This is expected to close in the third quarter of 2025. Right, so now I've got a TK out the way. I'm going to get into the other stuff. Super WWE. I'm hoping I can get this done by 2 hours. So we're going to start with I'll pause in, then I'll show you what we're going to start with. Right, so we're going to start with Owen Hart's death. Like, I know it's a lot of people spoke about it, but Owen Hart's death was quite shocking. So on May 23rd, 1999, Owen Hart fell to his death in Kansas City, Missouri during Over the Edge pay-per-view event. Hart was in the process of being lowered by a harness and grapple line into the ring from the rafters of Kemper Arena for the Boxing Intercontinental Championship against the Godfather. In keeping with his blue blazer, New Boone buffoonish superhero character. He was to begin a dramatic entrance, being lowered just above the ring level, at which time he would act entangled, then release himself from the safety harness and fall flat on his face for the comedic effect. This necessitated the use of the quick release mechanism. It was an elaboration on the Blue Blazer stunt previously done at Sunday Night Heat before Survivors in '98. While being lowered into the ring, Hart fell 78 feet, landing on his chest on the top rope, throwing me into the ring. Hart had performed the stunt only a few times before. Hart's widow Martha suggested that by moving around and comfortable with both the harness and the cape on, Hart unintentionally triggered the early release. Television viewers did not see the incident's moments after the fall. A pre-tape vignette began to show on the pay-per-view broadcast as well as on the monitors in the darkened arena. Afterward, while Hart was being worked on, a medical personnel inside the ring, live events broadcast showed the audience. Meanwhile, Jim Ross told those watching live on pay-per-view that what just transpired was not a wrestling angle or story, and that Hart was badly hurt. Hart was transported to Truman Medical Center in Kansas City, while several attempts to revive him were made. He died from his injuries. Some believe he died in the ring. The cause of the death was later revealed to be internal bleeding from blunt force trauma. Now, I know that I should really point more on this, but Owen Hart, I can understand why Owen Hart's widow does not want anything to do with WWE, considering the fact that they did not give him the safety that he should really been having, especially at that height. But we are going to move on to the Legends program, WWE Hall of Fame. Right, so Legends program began informally with the return of the Hall of Fame ceremony in 2004, held annually during WrestleMania weekends. The introduction of WWE 24/7, WWE's on-demand television service, the WWE Network, and over-the-top streaming services, and the success of the career retrospect home videos releases such as the Ultimate Ric Flair collection, Roddy Piper born to controversy, the Brian Pillman lose the canon, having grade WWE's modern product with a sense of heritage, and allows new generation wrestling fans to witness matches and events that may only previously have heard of. WWE will also offer select former retired WWE wrestlers bidding from publicly as WWE Legends contracts, periodic appearances, either WTV or promotional events, to serve as ambassadors, public representatives for the companies. So obviously they did have a break from the Hall of Fame, but we are going to get into now Chris Benoit's double murder suicide. Right, so getting into Chris Benoit. On June 25th, 2007, Fayette County Police notified WWE at 4:15 p.m., informing them that they had discovered bodies of Chris, Nancy, and their 7-year-old son Daniel at their home in Fayette County, Georgia, and the house was now ruled as a major crime scene. WWE cancelled the scheduled 3-hour-long live show on Raw on June 25th, which coincidentally was supposed to be the scripted memorial of Mr. McMahon character, and replaced a broadcast tribute to his life and career featuring post matches, segments, and hard knocks, the Chris Benoit story DVD, and the comments from the wrestlers, announcers, and from Raw, SmackDown, and the now defunct ECW brands. Shortly after the program aired, many of the aired comments were posted on WWE.com. It was not until the program was nearly over that reports surfaced that the police were working under the belief that Benoit murdered his wife and son before killing himself over a 3-day period. So the next night, after some of the details had become available, the company aired a recorded statement by its chairman, Vince McMahon, before the ECW broadcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Last night on Monday Night Raw, the WWE presented a special tribute show recognizing the career of Chris Benoit. However, now that some 26 hours later, the facts of the horrific tragedy are now apparent. Therefore, other than my comments, there'll be no more mention of Mr. Benoit's name tonight. On the contrary, tonight's show will be dedicated to everyone who has been affected by this terrible incident, and this an evening marks the first step of healing process tonight. WWE performers will do what they do better than anyone else in this world: entertain you. Following this double murder suicide committed by Chris Benoit, the United States House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform began investigating WWE regarding their wellness policy. After Benoit's death, WWE began to turn down violent, swearing, sexual content of their product. Furthermore, after the further deaths among WWE wrestlers were found, including Benoit's, to be caused by chronic traumatic en- so encephalopathy. I think that's what I can't say that word very well, but I've tried my best. Which was an emerging study to brain injuries in the sport. WWE legitimately banned chair shots to the head. Right, so I'm just going to now that we're getting to smaller paragraphs, I'm just going to haze over them. So I'm not going to change what's on the screen just so that I can go through them. So we're not going to do that, and we're not going to do. Well, everyone knows about the WWE Network, so and the move to Peacock because it was quite well thingy. But I don't think many people know about the Pink Ribbon campaigning, so we're going to do that. So starting in October 2012, WWE formed a partnership with Susan G. Komen for the cure to promote breast cancer awareness. As part of the campaign W adorned their sets with pink ribbons, put pink middle ropes on the rings, filmed PSAs, and sold special John Cena Rise Above Cancer merchandise. All of these efforts culminated in a donation from WWE of $1 million, which was presented to Susan G. Komen, representative in the in-ring ceremony during the 29th of October 2012 episode of Raw. The campaign continued every year since, but caused controversy as the foundation has been accused of pink washing. And I'm going to get into the backstage harassment throughout the late 2010s. Nobody in 2017, WWE became embroiled in scandals concerning the company allowing certain employees to harass others, such as Bill DeMott and John Layfield, according to multiple sources, including Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer. Hazing is something which is encouraged by higher ups in the company and has been going on since the company's inception. So this obviously is a very long one. But yeah, I try my best to pronounce some of these words. I'm not very good at pronouncing words. But like halfway through, I think about an hour and a half ish, maybe a bit before, my mic started to go out, so I had to use a different mic. But yeah, I decided to do WWE soon because I just wanted to get it done. Because WWE is one of the most embellished in history. It's got so much history, it's got so much controversy. Obviously, this most recent one with the sexual harassment. That includes Brock Lesnar, includes Vince McMahon. And, you know, you want me to do something else, like instead of history, I can do something else. I can do watch alongs. I might not be able to put the whole screen of what I am watching on because of copyright, but I can do something like that. But it might not be straight away. It might be I have to do it when I'm not busy, really, because I've got a lot of work to do. But I want to get this one done. But I will do shorter videos on my TikTok. So, but yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the information.